You're listening to Unfiltered, real talk about sex and love with Ashley
and Heather. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about singleness, same-sex attraction, and sex. And this was a hard episode to title because it really had all of these elements, but there wasn't any clear thing. So that's what I'm going with for now. But if it ends up changing before we release the episode, you'll know why.
Good. Okay. We're a casual kind of podcast. So, we just go where the wind takes us sometimes.
Yeah. And the Holy Spirit.
And the Holy Spirit.
Yes. All right. Our first question says, I am single right now, but every time I get in the shower, I think about when I get married and if my husband will want to take a shower with me. I don't want my husband in the shower. So how would I tell him no without hurting him? You know what? I could see how this would be a question that somebody would kind of wrestle with a little bit, especially if you see what happens in movies sometimes where couples take showers together. I can see where this question would come from. And so I'm going to answer it for me personally, and then I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it, Ashley. So
I don't watch movies where people take showers.
I know, you're so spiritual. Okay, so from my experience, the only time that I have ever taken a shower with my husband has been more not for the intent of getting my body clean, but it was foreplay. And so it was always about sex, really taking a shower with him, because for me, even though I love my husband and I love having sex with my husband and we have a really great relationship that way, I also don't want him in the shower when I'm in the shower because he's kind of a bigger guy and I want the shower to myself. And so, but if you think of it in that terms, and I don't know if it's normal that people would just take showers to take a shower together, but for me personally, it was always about sex. And so even knowing that for this person who's single right now, it might end up changing your view of having sex with or having a shower with your spouse, because the goal might not be taking a shower the way you take a shower now. So just keep that in mind. But otherwise, if you are married to somebody who loves you and respects you and honors you the way that the Bible tells a husband to honor his wife, then if you have to tell him no, that you don't want him in the shower, then I think that he will understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it's like any other thing regarding our sexuality where it's like, yeah, I don't really feel comfortable or enjoy that position. So that's just like, it may be disappointing on some level to your spouse who maybe they do, but we're always going to default to what's safe and comfortable for both people. And that's just how relationships are. Those kinds of compromises need to be made. So I can see, some people have really big houses with like those giant showers and they both have to get ready in the morning for work. And there's two shower heads in this giant shower and they jump in the shower. And I can, there's all different reasons why we might take a shower together. Okay, this is going to sound break, pause, new sentence, new thought. Heather and I travel a lot together for work. And I like make sure there's a clear break here. I shower at night and she showers in the morning. It works wonderfully because we both have our own time in the bathroom. New roommate, new coworker traveling with Tanya, she also likes to shower at night. So when we both stayed at Heather's, I'm like, wait, we both shower at night? How are we going to work this out? So as a couple, I could see, if your timing of when you like showers is the same time in the morning for work, it doesn't, there's different reasons and you just need to talk about that. But going back to what Heather said about sexuality, like sex in the shower or it being about sex, I'm with Heather. Like I'm not somebody who likes to go pee with the door open, go to the bathroom in front of my husband. My shower is like my downtime. I love my water scalding hot, where John likes it like toilet water. And I'm just like, get away from me with your cold water. And that's just how it is. Like if we were to ever take a shower together, it would be solely for like you said, Heather, because it's sexual or foreplay. It wouldn't be for function because that's my downtime in the shower to have it to myself and just I love that. Now you have somebody like I had a best friend growing up, and it's like she walked around the house naked to get ready. You know, she was like that locker room girl that just did not care, and they're just totally comfortable. And so there's different levels of comfort and modesty. You know, let's say, oh, you lose all your modesty when you go to have a baby. I never did. I'm
No,
like,
me
give me my
either.
bikini top. I do not lose my modesty in any situation. So, you're not a prude. You're not fun because you don't want to do certain things. Just whatever's comfortable for you. And that could change over time as you get more comfortable with yourself and with your spouse. And especially if there's safety there, then that comfort level of what you are okay with and not okay with might change.
Hmm.
Our next question is, I am a follower of Christ. I was sexually abused several times as a child. I struggled with same-sex attraction most of my life and am still single. How do I engage my sexual desires at this stage in a healthy way, knowing that I want to honor God above all? Um, okay, so struggled with same-sex attraction, still single, sexually abused. Right away, I'm like counseling right
Yeah.
away. There are so many layers here, and starting with that sexual abuse, which is probably foundational to some of the reasons of why we do or don't do things in adulthood. And
Hmm.
so if you haven't received counseling specifically for that sexual abuse as a child, I would start there. Um, because I can't from this one email say, oh yeah, I can see the connection of like why men are unsafe. And so you gravitate toward women sexually because that's what's safe to you because this man abused you, or vice versa. This woman
Right.
abused you, and so you gravitate toward men, or your sexual experience was with the same gender and that made you have this bond of like fear and sexual arousal, and now you're carrying that into your adulthood and you're same sex attracted because that was your first sexual experience. Or I don't know from this
Hmm.
email, but I do know that some kind of counseling needs to take place here. And I would suggest, I don't know if this is a man or a woman, but I would suggest either Seven Pillars of Freedom or Unraveled to just do that deep study with other people. And I promise you, okay, can't promise, but I 99% almost promise you that you'll be in group and somebody else will have some kind of similar situation, whether it's sexual abuse or same-sex attraction or some sexual curiosity and exploration as a kid that led to some behavior or desire. There's just this, unfortunately, is so common among the people that come to us and are part of our groups. And
Yeah.
usually, when somebody shares this, there are other people that said, I totally get it. I've been there too. Me too.
Yeah.
So I would get into a group and I would get into counseling, um, because it does sound like there's unprocessed trauma and some shame around this person's thoughts and feelings that needs to be worked out.
Hmm. Yeah. And I really love that this person would send in this question because sometimes I mean, we know that all of us struggle with something, but there tends to be certain struggles that are taboo and we just don't talk about it. And so the fact that she would send in
Mm-hmm.
this question, I really am thankful for that. And I would be curious too, for whoever sent in this question, if you get into counseling, if you get into an Unraveled group, which I think Unraveled would be so helpful in not just with your sexuality, but just all of it, even with the abuse, even with singleness, with all of it. But I would love it to hear how that works for you. You know, that if it works for you and what you learn about yourself and what you learn about what God is calling you to do in your life. Because I think that, again, our struggles aren't random. You know, I think that God, in so many ways, provides purpose and a plan through our struggles, and I really just pray that she finds that through her healing.
Yeah, me too. That's so good. These are some tough questions. So that goes back to that whole thing. Like sometimes we want to know, like, whatever happened to you? Are you okay? Did you
Yeah.
find the help you needed? So please update us if, if you were able to take a step and find something that might help inform a future listener. too. So, okay, our last question is, I am 47 years old and single. I'm having a lot of anxiety about the idea of having sex when I'm married. I want to be married, but I'm afraid sex will hurt. I won't know how to act, and I don't even want to have an orgasm. How do I handle all of these thoughts and fears? And so when I was reading this, I mean, it just sounds like there's tons of fear of unknown and anxiety around the whole situation. And so around sex. And so I would first, I would first probably see a counselor because then to be able to unpack where these big anxieties about sex are coming from, and also to really narrow down what you want. Like, what is it that you really want in a relationship? Because after working through the anxiety and fear about sex, possibly this person could come to the point of like, I actually don't ever want to have sex. I don't need that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want that. And if that's the case, then that needs to be really clearly stated before going into relationship or marriage with somebody else, because they need to know you're signing up for a relationship with no sex, with no expectations of that. And so, find out what it is you really want first. My suspicion is that when you when you find somebody that's safe, there may be a push-pull desire of wanting to be close, but then also fearing it. And so to work through that ahead of time is going to be really important. But I have seen women who have come out of really toxic marriages for years, and they thought that they never liked sex. They thought that, it just gave them anxiety. They hated it. They didn't want anything to do with it. They never need it again in their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Then they find some healing, they do counseling, they do group, they're away from that abusive, toxic husband, and their sexual desire is like waking up again. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it can be kind of all out of sorts and scary and fearful because we've never had a safe place to express our sexuality. And then when we find a safe place, a safe spouse, that those walls start to come down. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but you don't know if it's like situational that you're reacting to these things or if it's just a bunch of unprocessed shame or bad messages you got growing up around sexuality, that have created fear. So start with counseling and just start, picking that apart and figuring out what's a legitimate fear and what's just an anxiety, and what is something that is just your preference and it's going to
Yeah.
stay that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that counseling too would help with all of this, because a lot of times it takes work for us
Mhm.
to figure out where these messages come from, and especially messages that are so strong that, in who we are as a person, but being able to work with a counselor, a professional in this area, to not only figure out the why, but where does it come from? Because a lot of times, even if it's something that happened in our childhood and we processed it a certain way, there are times even then as an adult when you're going back to those memories and you're seeing it with a broader picture and with all the information that you have now as an adult, that your brain is so much better equipped to handle that information and process it even more quickly than you could as a child, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I'm a huge advocate of counseling. I think it's one of the best things that we can ever do for ourselves. And so getting into counseling with somebody who specializes in like anxiety, but also specializes in perhaps trauma, family trauma, might be a really good place to start.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining the conversation today. And if you can think about it, we should be talking about it. So email us your questions at unfiltered@puredesire.org. And if you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend.